You know, intelligence is often misunderstood. People think it's about how many books you've read, how many degrees you hold, or how quickly you can solve a problem. But in reality, true intelligence goes far beyond that. It's in the way you live. It's in the way you treat others. And most importantly, it's in how you learn from your mistakes. Because here's the truth. Wisdom isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, day by day, decision by decision, through every failure, every reflection, and every humble moment when you say, "I was wrong." Over the years, I've noticed something fascinating about people. There are certain signs, clear as day, that reveal when someone is not as wise as they think they are. 6 of them, to be exact. Now, this isn't about judging others or calling anyone stupid. That's not the point. The purpose of this conversation is self-awareness, because sometimes, without even realizing it, we all fall into patterns that hold us back, patterns of stubbornness, pride, or fear. Recognizing these signs is the first step to breaking free from them. Think of it as holding up a mirror to your own life. Each of these 6 signs carries a lesson, a reminder that wisdom isn't about being perfect, but about being willing to grow. And that's what Stoic philosophy has taught us for thousands of years. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Wisdom begins the moment you stop pointing outward and start looking inward. So, as we go through these 6 signs together, I want you to do something brave. Don't just think of others who fit these traits. Think of yourself. Because the goal isn't to feel superior, it's to become better. Ready? Let us uncover the 6 unmistakable signs of a foolish person and the powerful Stoic lessons they carry for those who dare to grow wiser. 1. A closed mind. Have you ever tried talking to someone who refuses to listen? No matter how clear the truth is? You could show them facts, logic, or even results, and they'd still say, "That's not how it works," or "We've always done it this way." That is the first unmistakable sign of a foolish person. A closed mind. A closed mind is a fortress, built brick by brick from fear, pride, and stubbornness. The person inside believes they're protecting what they know, but really, they're imprisoning themselves. They cling to the comfort of old ways because change threatens their ego. They mistake routine for wisdom and confidence for truth. Let me tell you about someone I once worked with, a manager named Michael. Michael was experienced, respected, and proud of what he'd built. But when new ideas came along, new systems, new technology, he shut them down instantly. "We've been fine for 10 years, he'd say. So while other teams evolved, his team stayed stuck. Productivity fell, morale dropped, and yet Michael blamed everyone but himself. The market, the staff, bad timing, everything, except his own refusal to change. And that's what happens when the mind closes. You don't just stop learning, you start decaying. The world keeps moving forward, and you stay behind, trapped in a mindset that once worked, but no longer does. Stoic philosophy reminds us, true wisdom begins when we admit how little we actually know. Epictetus said, "It is impossible to learn what one thinks they already know. The moment you believe you've learned enough is the moment you stop growing." So here it's a challenge for you. The next time you feel yourself resisting a new idea, pause and ask, "Am I rejecting this because it's wrong or because it makes me uncomfortable?" Growth only happens when we're brave enough to question ourselves. Remember this, a closed mind may feel safe, but it's the comfort zone that kills growth. And an open mind, humble, curious, willing to learn, is the foundation of true wisdom. Because wisdom doesn't come from always being right. It comes from being willing to be wrong and still choosing to learn. 2. Constant blaming. Have you ever met someone who always has an excuse? No matter what happens, it's never their fault. The weather, their boss, their coworkers, the economy, bad luck. There's always something or someone else to blame. You see, This mindset is one of the clearest signs of foolishness, the constant need to escape responsibility. Because when you blame, you surrender control. You give away your power to change. Let me tell you a story. Lisa was a bright young event manager, ambitious, creative, full of energy. But when one of her major projects failed because key invitations were sent out late, she didn't take ownership. Instead, she blamed the marketing department for the delay. The truth? She had missed a deadline herself. That one moment of blame cost her everything: her reputation, her team's trust, and eventually, her position. Here's the painful truth. When you blame others, you protect your ego, but destroy your growth. Taking responsibility doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful. Because responsibility is where real transformation begins. The Stoics understood this long ago. They taught that we can't control what happens, but we can always control how we respond. When you stop saying, "It's not my fault," and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" your entire life begins to shift. So the next time something goes wrong, pause and ask yourself, have I truly done my best? Could I have done something differently? These questions don't just lead to answers, they lead to wisdom. Remember, growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from courage. The courage to look at yourself honestly and say, I am responsible for my life. That's the moment you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the master of your destiny. 3. Arrogance over humility. Have you ever met someone who always has to be right? No matter the situation, no matter who they're talking to, they always need the last word. That's arrogance, the silent killer of growth. Arrogance often looks like confidence on the surface, but in truth, it's a mask, a fragile cover for insecurity and fear. Deep down, arrogant people aren't certain of their worth, so they overcompensate by pretending to know it all. I once worked with a man named Michael. Brilliant mind, incredible talent. But his arrogance held him back more than any lack of skill ever could. In meetings, he would interrupt others, dismiss new ideas, and insist that his way was the only way. Eventually, his project failed, not because of bad luck or lack of resources, but because he refused to listen. And even then, he couldn't see that he was the reason things fell apart. That's the tragedy of arrogance. It blinds you. It convinces you that you already know enough, that you've already arrived. And the moment you believe that, your growth stops. The Stoics taught something profound. Humility isn't T about lowering yourself. It's S about raising your willingness to learn. It's saying, I don't have all the answers, but I'm open to finding them. True wisdom begins the moment you say, I was wrong. Because those 3 words open a door that arrogance keeps locked, the door to self-improvement. So ask yourself, do you want to look smart, or do you want to become wise? Because one feeds your ego, the other feeds your soul. Remember this, the most intelligent people you will ever meet are often the quietest in the room. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they're always listening, always learning, always humble enough to grow. As Marcus Aurelius once said, if someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I'll gladly change, for it's the truth I seek, not my own pride. That is the mindset of true strength, humility over arrogance. 4. Lack of empathy. Have you ever judged someone without truly knowing what they were going through? It's easy to do, especially in a world that moves fast, where deadlines, goals, and results seem to matter more than people. But here's the truth. When you lose empathy, you lose your humanity. I remember a man named Paul. He was a hard-working professional, disciplined, sharp, always on top of his game. One day, one of his team members, Susan, missed a project deadline. Paul was furious. He scolded her in front of the whole team, calling her irresponsible and lazy. But what Paul didn't know was that Susan's child was in the hospital that week. She was juggling between her job and her sick kid, barely sleeping, barely holding on. Months later, Paul's own mother fell seriously ill. Suddenly, everything changed. He started missing meetings, losing focus, struggling with the same guilt and exhaustion he once condemned in others. And that when it hit him, how blind he had been to someone else's pain. That's what a lack of empathy does. It isolates us. It builds walls instead of bridges. It makes us forget that every person we meet is fighting a battle we might know nothing about. The Stoics taught that empathy isn't weakness. It's wisdom in action. It's understanding that we are all connected by the same struggles, the same fears, the same longing to be seen and understood. Empathy begins with one simple act: listening without judgment. When you listen, not to reply, but to understand, you open a space where others can be human. And that space is where respect, kindness, and real strength begin to grow. You see, intelligence without empathy is cold. Success without empathy is empty. And wisdom without empathy isn't wisdom at all. So the next time you're tempted to judge, pause and ask yourself, what if that were me? Because when you can feel another person's struggle as your own, even for a moment, you are not just being kind. You're being wise. As the Stoics remind us, compassion is not a weakness. It has the highest form of strength. 5. Fear of change. Let me ask you something. How many times in your life have you stayed in a place, a job, or even a mindset, not because it made you happy, but because it felt safe? We all have a comfort zone, and it feels good there, predictable, familiar, easy. But here's the truth. The comfort zone is not a sanctuary. It's a prison, a silent cage built out of fear. I once knew a man named Michael. He'd lived in the same quiet neighborhood for decades. Same routines, same people, same cafe every morning. He used to say, "Why change what's working?" But the world around him changed. Technology, opportunities, even the community itself. While others adapted, Michael stayed still. And slowly, life started to pass him by. He felt left behind, irrelevant, disconnected. One day, life forced him to move. His old apartment building was being demolished. At first, he was terrified. But when he finally settled into a new neighborhood, something unexpected happened. He met new people, discovered new passions, and felt alive again for the first time in years. That's the paradox of change. We fear it, but it's often the very thing that saves us. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that resisting change is like fighting the tide, exhausting and pointless. Nature itself is change. The seasons shift, the rivers flow, and so do we. To live is to evolve. If you fear change, ask yourself this: what's the worst that could happen if I take the leap? And then ask, what's the best that could happen if I do? You'll realize that the first answer is almost always temporary discomfort, and the second is growth, peace, and freedom. Every meaningful chapter in your life will start with one uncomfortable step. You cannot reach your potential by standing still. So don't fear change. Fear staying the same. Because the moment you embrace uncertainty, you discover who you truly are. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you that matters, but how you respond to it. And choosing to grow, even when it's uncomfortable, that's how you master life itself. 6. Talking more than listening. Have you ever met someone who loves the sound of their own voice? They talk endlessly, giving opinions, advice, and stories, but never pause long enough to truly listen. That's one of the surest signs of foolishness, talking more than you listen. I remember a man named John, a good father, hardworking, well-intentioned. But every night at the dinner table, he would dominate the conversation. He'd talk about his day, his ideas, his plans. And when his wife or children tried to speak, he'd interrupt or correct them. He thought he was leading his family, but in truth, he was silencing them. Over time, the laughter at the table faded. His kids stopped sharing. His wife grew quiet. And one day he realized that his words had built walls instead of connection. You see, when you talk more than you listen, you stop learning. Because every time you speak, you repeat what you already know. But when you listen, you open the door to wisdom. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listening isn't a passive act. It's one of the highest forms of respect. It says, "I value your thoughts. I care enough to understand you." And when you truly listen, without judgment, without waiting for your turn to speak, something beautiful happens. People open up, relationships heal, trust grows. Think of it this way. Words are like seeds. When you talk without listening, you're throwing them onto dry, barren ground. Nothing grows. But when you listen, when you water the soil with attention and empathy, those words can blossom into understanding, love, and connection. So the next time you're in a conversation, pause for a moment before speaking. Ask yourself, am I listening to respond or listening to understand? Because wisdom isn't it found in the noise of our own voices. It is found in the quiet moments when we choose to hear another soul. As the Stoics would say, silence, when used with awareness, is the language of the wise. Let us be honest. Every one of us has been foolish at some point in our lives. We've all been stubborn when we should have listened. We've blamed others when we should have looked within. We've feared change, spoken too much, or thought we knew it all. And that's okay. Because foolishness isn't a permanent flaw. It's a phase. It's the starting point of wisdom. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be aware, to see our blind spots, to admit our mistakes, and to have the courage to grow from them. That's what the Stoics understood so deeply. They never chased perfection. They chased progress. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wisest men to ever live, once wrote, "If someone shows you your mistake, consider it a gift, for they've given you the chance to improve." Wisdom doesn't come from always being right. It comes from being willing to learn when you were wrong. Every foolish act, every bad decision, every painful lesson, they're not signs of weakness. They're invitations to grow. So maybe today is your moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, where am I still blaming instead of taking responsibility? Where am I still afraid of change? Where am I still talking when I should be listening? Because the truth is, the journey to wisdom doesn't start with books or teachers. It starts with humility. It starts with saying, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did. And that single thought can change your entire life. Remember this, stupidity is temporary, but the journey toward wisdom lasts forever. Every time you choose growth over pride, awareness over ignorance, and empathy over ego, you take one step closer to true wisdom. So stop blaming, stop resisting change, listen more, reflect deeply, and never stop learning. Because wisdom isn't a destination, it's a lifelong path. And the moment you choose to walk it, you're no longer foolish. You're becoming free. If this message resonates with you, hit like, subscribe, and share in the comments. Which of these lessons will you start practicing today?